Hey, it's Dr. O'Gwyn here, and I just read an interesting book. It is called The Gift of Injury, and I wanted to do my first book report. This is essentially written by a power lifter and his struggles, and then how he overcame his chronic low back pain and came back stronger. And it's co-authored with an incredible physician named Stuart Mcgill. Most physical therapists, most chiropractors, even a lot of personal trainers are very familiar with Stuart Mcgill's work. He's probably done more research than anybody today with rehabilitating low backs. So they co-authored this book. Now, although it was written by a power lifter and really written for strength and power athletes, there's just applicable information for anybody who's trying to recover from injuries and or rehabilitate their back on their own, especially chronic and recurring low back pains. So I wanted to share some of that information with you. Before I do, I'll tell you a little bit about his story and how this all came about. Again, this power lifter suffered from incredible low back pain, so bad that he sought out some advice from orthopedists, all of which said, you're going to have surgery. There's just no way around it, and you're not going to be able to lift anymore, especially once you have these surgeries. You can't lift. He realized that lifting was so important to him that he would go through depression if he wasn't able to do the one thing that he loved and enjoyed. And in his mind, I just couldn't imagine living life without being able to do this one sport that is so important to me. So he found Stuart Mcgill, and they rehabilitated his back. He actually came back within about a year and a half later. He came back stronger and went on to break some world records and is still lifting. So they co-authored this book and talked about it. And again, the information that I will share with you now is just applicable to anybody. The first thing that he talks about is the rehabilitation. There's two phases in the rehabilitation process. And phase number one, and this is important, and I have a hard time conveying this message to a lot of people sometimes, is you have to let it heal. This is the time to not do the things that aggravate it. There are certain personality types, especially type A personalities, that are go, 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 that they just won't give it the time to rest, recover, and heal. You have to, what they call, wind down those pain sensitivities. This is the time to do manual therapy kinds of things, whether that be some chiropractic spinal manipulation kind of work, some soft tissue myofascial release type work, acupuncture. It really just depends what your injury is, which of those therapies might work better. But seek out somebody who is good with rehabilitation but can also do some soft tissue work or some kind of work to help those tissues heal a little bit faster. The other thing he talked about was good movement 24/7. He realized that when he was in the weight room lifting weights, he knew what good form was and he applied that. But in his daily life, doing just everyday chores, he didn't move through his hips the way that he would when he lifted weights. He rounded his spine too much. He sat with bad posture. And this is one thing that is incredibly important, because it's the day in, day out, everyday activities that can really wind up those pain sensitivities and make it difficult for the tissues to recover and to heal. The other thing, coordination and stability. So a lot of strength athletes and just a lot of people in general with low back pain, they don't necessarily have good coordination of the smaller, more intricate muscles. Or they might have an imbalance of their core. Maybe they're strong in their core, but there's an imbalance. So there are a few really key exercises. One they talk about is the side plank. That's going to work the transverse abdominals, the side abdominal muscles. There are a lot of people with low back pain that there is an imbalance. They're a lot stronger in that front rectus abdominal muscle than they are in the side abdominal muscles. They can do crunches, sit-ups, hold front planks without a problem, but if you put them in a side plank and really stress the transverse abdominal muscles, they just don't have that same amount of stability and coordination. So side planks are really important. Another one they talked about is something called a bird dog. This is where people are on their hands and their knees. They lift one leg back, extend it out behind them, one arm in front of them. Core is activated, and this really works with the low back muscles, but especially it works with the coordination of those low back muscles. So those are some other basic things. Stage 2 is to come back stronger. Now this is where they mention a lot about nervous system training. They say things like, it's not it's not the muscles that you want to worry about strengthening so much as the nerves. It's the nerve impulses to the muscles that make people move better and stronger. So they talk about a powerful thought, strong intention in your thought. There's a stronger neural drive to the muscles where you'll actually use more of the muscle fibers, and you'll use the muscles in a more coordinated sequence rather than just trying to go through the motions. So powerful thoughts, powerful intentions, and train movement. When you train the movements, because you're going to train the brain and you're going to train the nervous system to move properly, to move correctly. Good orchestrated movement through all of the muscles rather than just trying to isolate individual muscles. Again, they talk about a super stiff core. They talk about coordination again. They've got a tremendous amount of exercises in there. One example is kind of laying on a bench, laying on your back, and just doing single arm kettlebell pushes, forcing you to activate the core. Super stiff core. They talk about no movement through the spine, the lumbar spine, the thoracic spine. You want it super stiff, super strong, and all of the movements through the hip. Generate the power through the hips. And they've got a lot of exercises that they talk about on there. Talks about 5 basic principles for a healthy spine and 5 basic principles essentially for training. Principle number 1, again, that healthy movement 24/7. You always want good, proper movement, even when you're not in the gym. Proper warm-up. This is going to depend on your age, injuries, pre-existing injuries, but you have to warm up at least a 5 to 10 minute warm-up. Some people might need more of a 10 to 15 minute warm-up. Get those muscles loosened up and warmed up. Form, of course, that should go without saying. Purpose talks about careful selection of exercises in the gyms. Don't just do the 3 big lifts or don't do the basic things. You have to work on that agility, the balance, and the coordination. So force yourself to cross-train and do these other exercises to work other muscle groups and the coordination of those muscle groups that a lot of people overlook. Purpose also, he talks about outside of the gym. What are you doing? What is your diet like? Are you getting adequate rest and recovery and things like that? Which brings us to his train in phases and cycles. Make sure you deload or have light weeks every 3 to 4 weeks. Make sure that if you're training strength, you also want to train with speed. So again, this nervous system development. So you want quick days, fast days, days where you do lighter weight, but you're really working on the speed and the timing of it, because that's going to fire up the nervous system and create those patterns. So again, a lot of great information, but I just wanted to highlight some of the basics that I think a lot of people, you could just do good by hearing this information if you're trying to rehabilitate your low back. If you have any questions, I am here for you. I love to answer questions. Feel free to leave comments, and we will see you soon.